The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. I hope God uses this story for His glory.
It's your story, and you know, you have a very, very powerful story. And I feel really, really privileged to be sitting here today listening to your story. And we're really praying that the Lord will use your story to speak to many people. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Jenny. Where were you born, and where did you live in the early part?
I was born in West Hill, and my mum, when she was younger, she gave her heart to God, and at the age of 12 she decided she wanted to get baptised. But the minister of the church said that in order for her to get baptised, her parents, my grandparents, had to do an Alpha course. So as a result, both my grandparents became born-again Christians.
So almost it was your mum was the catalyst for bringing her parents to church.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So just a young girl of 12. And she must have attended youth clubs or kids' church or something that stirred up that interest of Jesus in her. So she was baptized at the age of 12.
Yeah.
And so your story begins in, I think, 1987 in West Hill. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
You were born in Aberdeen?
Yes, uh-huh.
That's the same age as your mum and me must have been in hospital around the same time. So that's lovely. So you were born there, and you lived in West Hill for how many years?
Until I was 12.
Until you were 12. Any brothers and sisters?
I've got a sister, Catherine.
Sister Catherine. So living in West Hill, normal family, mum and dad, sister, going to school.
Yeah.
How was school?
Well, it was fine until the end of primary 5. And then we had a whole school assembly, and we discovered that my friends from the class, it was a group of 5 of us.
Yeah.
We used to pretend we were the Spice Girls, and I was Baby Spice.
I love it.
And we were just like a gang sort of thing, like just 5 girls sticking together.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end of primary 5, it changed. Only 2 or 3 of the girls in my class went with me into another class.
So
and the
your
rest of my
classes were
friends,
split up.
the rest of my friends went to a composite class, and that really affected me. It stirred up a bit of anxiety.
Anxiety, because you were split up from your friends.
Yeah.
You were in different classes. You know, it's funny, things like that happen, and you just think, oh, kids are resilient, they'll get over it. But it's amazing how the sensitive child and the one who really has a strong friendship, it can really unsettle them. And I've seen that myself in school. So that was difficult. Now, how did you deal with your anxiety at that time?
Well, I started to avoid food.
Okay.
And I also started to drink lots and lots of water.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And was drinking water to fill you up?
It was more like a compulsive thing.
A compulsive thing, and then filling you up so you didn't
filling
feel
me up,
hungry
and
that.
yeah, just.
Did your mum notice that?
Towards the end of about primary 7, she noticed.
Okay.
And she thought I maybe had diabetes.
Okay.
So she took me to the doctor, but they didn't find any diabetes or anything. So they just said she's fine.
So that was how you were. That's how you dealt with the stress of that.
Yeah.
And then we move on, and you know, hormones have kicked in, and dealing with periods, and moving to secondary school and all that kind of stuff. It's so many difficult things happen.
That's true.
Now, I believe you used to go to your mum and your granny and granddad's in Peterhead many times, and you would spend many weekends there. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, we used to spend holidays as well, and they would take us to Sunday school, and my nana had a promise box, and every day she would let me choose a promise.
Yeah.
And I was so interested in what it meant and everything, and I asked her lots of questions. And I remember one day she brought home this, not a DVD, a video.
Yeah.
Show my age now. And Heaven's Gates and Hell's Flames, I think it's called. And I watched it at the age of 8, and I just felt that God would, He would be there for me, and He loved me, and that if I gave my heart to Him, I could go to heaven and be safe with Him.
Oh, that's lovely. So you had this wonderful, godly grandparent that every time you went there to stay, she would tell you stories about Jesus. She would take you to church. So you had that lovely Christian influence, because I don't think you attended church in West Hill, did you,
No,
as a family?
no.
Okay. And so you had this wonderful influence, and then you yourself had also wanted to take that a step further. When Nana would tell you about your mum finding Jesus at that age, then you kind of wanted to,
Yeah. So
after you got saved, you wanted to.
When I got saved, I
Yeah.
wanted to get baptized straight away. But my mum said I had to wait until I was 12, like she did.
She was 12.
And I
yeah.
remembered that. So I think it was a month after I was 12 that I got baptized.
Yeah.
And Mum held the towel.
Did she hold the towel? That's lovely.
Yeah.
And that was in July, I believe, 1999.
Yes.
Wow, wow, that's lovely. And so you're now in secondary school. That was in July. And you just don't know, your mum standing holding the towel, listening to the service, stirring up memories within her about her finding Jesus at that age as well. You just don't know what was going on in your mum's mind and that.
That's true.
But you said at Christmas Eve that you had wanted to attend a Christmas Eve service in West Hill. And your mum wanted to come with you. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, we went to the service, and I don't know like if anything happened in my mum's heart or anything, but I believe in my heart that maybe it did.
Yeah.
And I hold that as strong now.
Yes, because what nobody could have figured out was 10 days after Christmas Eve, on January the 4th, 2000, and just January the 4th, 2000, your whole world came apart.
That's right, yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, a terrible tragedy happened, and as a result, I lost my mum. She died, and my dad went to prison as a result. I won't go into the details.
Yeah.
But my whole world changed around. Went to my grandparents, stayed with them, lost all my friends in my school, and just my whole identity.
I just cannot imagine at a worse stage in life that you're 12 years old and you've had these challenges and anxieties about losing your friends and a few eating disorder, food challenges with food, and then to suddenly find yourself, you've lost your mum, you've lost your dad, you've lost the home you lived in, you've lost the friends you had, you've moved away from the school, just everything. Yeah. And then to find yourself living in Peterhead and trying to come to terms with that awful loss. So you must have been about 12 and your sister was about 8 at the time?
Yes,
I mean, it just is so sad. It doesn't bear thinking about. And who knew that you were staying at your grandparents in West Hill that night?
Yes.
And who knew when your mum and dad dropped you off and your mum dropped you off that you'd never see her again? And just the hardness of life is sometimes really hard. So you moved to Peterhead now. You're trying to find new friends, trying to figure out who you are, trying to, how are you feeling?
Out of control, angry, just lost. But
totally lost.
I remember saying to my grandparents I wanted to take on my mum's maiden name.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and that helped a bit.
That helped, I know.
And I just felt lost and angry, and I started self-harming myself, taking solvents.
Yeah, and just having no idea of what to do, because the people who were your rocks were no longer your rocks,
Yeah.
I love the fact that Nana, just that strong, strong lady, I'd wanted to read earlier, in 2 Timothy 1, Paul is writing to Timothy and he said, I remember your genuine faith, for you share the faith that first filled your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and I know that same faith continues strong in you. And I just was thinking, Nana was quite amazing because it started with your mum's faith, and then it brought your Nana to faith in Jesus. And here, all these years later, here's Nana now picking up the mantle of being a mum to you, being a dad to you,
Truly.
being a confidant, being your best friend. And you reacted like most teenagers would react, just anger, fear, anxiety. You said you started self-harming and things like that. So after about 3 months, I think you were saying that you started reading dark books, dark music. Can you speak about that a bit?
Well, I would read Patricia Cornwell books, like with grisly murders and stuff like that in it. And Alanis Morissette, like Jagged Little Pill and stuff like that. Quite dark, angry music and stuff.
And then I think they then decided that you weren't coping with school, so they decided to put you through to the Lowit unit in Aberdeen.
I'd had a 3 months after my mum died, I had an overdose of paracetamol.
Okay. So you're now attending the Lowit unit, and that was a unit that was in Aberdeen, based in the hospital for children who struggled with different issues and things like that. So you went there. But again, it was really challenging because, you know, there was a lot of younger children there. There was not.
I was the eldest. I was the only girl as well.
The only girl, and again, just feeling that sense of isolation and lostness. You know, not a very happy time.
No.
And then after, when you reach the age of 14, there you almost come under the, you know, away from the. I think the Lowit was only up until the age of 14.
Yes.
And then you moved back to Peterhead.
Oh, I was in Peterhead the whole time.
You were in Peterhead, but you moved back to Peterhead Academy,
yes,
isn't that right?
Yeah, sorry.
Moved back to Peterhead Academy. And there was a special unit in the school called the Social and Emotional Development Unit.
Yes.
Is that right? Did I get
Social,
the words
Emotional, Behavioural.
Behavioural unit, that's right. And so you were put into that unit to just help you deal with all the different, I mean, your world had gone totally upside down.
Yeah, and when I was at the Lowit unit, the school didn't send schoolwork for me.
Okay.
So that meant that I had a lot of catching up to do.
You had a lot of catching up. And just the trauma of that and trying to figure out the academy and everything. And then, you know, there was a turning point when you were at school and the school authorities don't know what to do, and the unit's there and they're trying to help you and you're far behind with your work and that. And you said that there was a real turning point when your Nana went with you to there, and your Nana spoke up. And what did she say?
She says, Jenny can do anything she sets her mind to. The teacher had told her that I was thinking highly of myself to think that I would get my standard grades. And my Nana says, no, Jenny can do anything she sets her mind to. And I'll always remember that.
Yeah, because the teachers were saying, no, I don't think standard grades are for you. And because of what Nana said, and because she spoke into your future, you know, you went on. Tell us about your standard grades.
I got standard grades. How
many did you get?
Maths, English, art, admin, modern studies, and intermediate ones. So
I think altogether it was about 6 standard grades, which is absolutely fantastic. And then in 5th year you went on and got 3 hires.
Yes, the guidance teacher had told me that I should only take 2 in the two hires in the intermediate 2 as well. But I said, no, I need to take 3.
And you've got this Nana at home that's like, I mean, she's not that tall, but she's mighty.
Oh, yeah.
She's there championing you and then saying, come on, Jenny.
She's a prayer warrior.
A prayer warrior, and that's just wonderful. So things are looking up. You know, you've now come through those turbulent, very hard years. You know, time is starting to heal a little bit. And you've got these qualifications. You then now start going to college in Fraserburgh.
Yeah.
And tell me about your first year, how well you did.
Well, I was doing a HNC in social sciences, and I was doing reasonably well and stuff. At some point I decided I wanted to go to Wales, Glamorgan, to do a chiropractic degree. It was the only place in the whole of the UK that did a state-run chiropractic program. So I went for the interview. It was a lovely facility, and the interview went well, got accepted. But then when it came to crunch, I thought this is too far away from home.
Yeah, too far. And so you came back. So that's okay. There's universities close to Aberdeen. So things are looking great. You're not on any medication. You're doing really well. And then in your 2nd year of college there, you started attending a church in Peterhead, a different church in Peterhead, and things were going well. And so what happened?
Well, I was at prayer meeting one night, and 2 ladies from the church approached me and said they would like to pray for me at their house. So I didn't think anything of it. I agreed to go, and that's when things got a bit hard.
Because I think you said to me that they began counseling you and praying with you and delving into your past and looking into things and actually didn't really take your mental condition or the vulnerability you had or what you had gone through. So, and I think you said there was a lot of suggestions from them that, you know, well, many times you said to me they kept challenging your faith, didn't they?
Yes, they kept on telling me that I hadn't given my heart to God properly and that I should pray again and again and again. They just told me that I wasn't doing it right. And at this stage my heart was breaking.
Yeah.
And I was just lost again at this point. And
started losing.
And then after a long time getting really desperate, I decided to go to the GP. I went to the GP one morning, not my own GP, a different one, and I says, I'm feeling really suicidal, my mind's all over the place, I don't know what to do. So he says, I'll give you these tablets, come back in 2 weeks. I told one of the ladies this. She told me, by taking those tablets you're turning your back on God, and the best thing you can do is flush them down the toilet, which I did. And then it took many months for me to get the help that I needed.
Right. And I think one of the disturbing things you said to me was they were praying with you in isolation of Nana, and they said, don't share what we're praying.
That's
and
right.
So this then brought this divide between you and Nana, and you weren't opening up and sharing with her what was going on.
Yeah,
and,
it was really hard.
Really hard. And then because you can't open up and share with her what's happening, it's all in your mind and things are getting muddled and you're getting more and more distressed. You're starting to hear things. They were making...
Not sleeping properly.
Not sleeping properly. They were making suggestions to you because you used to love going down to the beach in the water and that. Yeah. And what did they say about that?
They told me that I should stay away from the water because there's demons in the water.
Yeah, so I think they just felt that there was demons
Everywhere.
And you know, I know that myself. I can remember many years ago someone came into my house and they said, oh, you've lived abroad. And I said, yeah. And they said, oh, and they were looking at some artifacts I had from Afghanistan. And they said, you know, you need to throw these away because you don't know if they're demonic influences and that. And
they
so
did that with me too.
Yeah, it can be very, very dangerous because I was strong in myself and so I didn't pay any attention to it. But when you're vulnerable...
Yeah, they told me to go through all my stuff. The stuff my Uncle John brought back from Russia and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So here we find yourself really distressed. You're still trying to cope with everything and, you know, you've been giving all this advice. And you then dropped out of college.
Yes.
Wasn't able to cope with college anymore and you'd been doing so well.
Yeah.
Then you found yourself really vulnerable and you then were almost disillusioned with church, and yet you were reading the Bible and you said that you were praying and praying, saying, Jesus, please, I want to be saved. But you were saved all along, but they kept saying you weren't properly saved. So tell me what happened that time tell me what happened in 2010.
Well, I was admitted to Cornhill Hospital. I think it's my second or third admission, and I was very, very distressed. I was at points I wasn't even allowed any furniture in the room, and it got to the point where I was allowed out for 15 minutes, and I took an overdose, went to my dad's place. Was very agitated, jumped off a bridge near where he lived. I broke my L1 vertebrae, shattered my heel, broke a bone in my pelvis. I was in the hospital for a long time. I flat on my back for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then had to wear a back brace and learn how to walk again.
That must have been so awful.
Yes, but at that time I found a peace in God at the same time. A bit better than I had, because my nana was always there for me and telling me about him and stuff.
And it must have been just so heartbreaking for your nana to discover that this is what you had done, and this is. And then, so the next few months are really quite turbulent. You're trying to learn how to walk. You're trying to cope with the injuries you've had. You're on medication. Your mind is still not doing very well. And then, you know, almost a year later, almost to the time, you went to visit some friends that were friends had been friends of your mum and dad, and that just triggered all the anger, all the pain of what you had lost.
Yes, it was pretty much close to Father's Day, which was triggering a lot of anger in me.
Yeah.
And I went after I met these friends of my parents. I went to the same bridge, and this time I broke.
Did you jump again?
Yes, I broke my wrist very badly. My shoulder, which still has metal work in it, and broke the other side of my pelvis and collapsed both lungs.
Oh my goodness. So that was a really hard time because you were in the high dependency unit and all that.
For several days, yeah.
I just think it's amazing that, you know, I have a song here. I was thinking about it, you know, as we were preparing for this today, I was thinking about this song. You know, it's In Christ Alone. It says, you know, no guilt in life, no fear in death. This is the power of Christ in me. From life's first cry to final breath, Jesus commands my destiny. And these were the words I kept thinking about. No power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from his hand.
Wow.
And, you know, I was just thinking, Jenny, you know, this was now the second time, and you did even more damage this time. And yet God had his hand on you, and he never took his eye off you that whole time. And so, as I scroll on for time, you know, you now have moved back to Peterhead, and you've moved back in with Granny and Granddad, and you got a little house in Peterhead that was just on the next street from them, and you know, but your eating was deteriorating a little bit and things like that, and then you then started having, you know, OCD, and you were like washing your hands, and you were just anxious for things, and just everything became anxious. Isn't it amazing that, you know, normal things taken to excess can be a problem, you know? So it's normal to wash your hands, and then it just became totally obsessive, and everything was taken to the extreme. And then you then jumped out of your...
I think it was 2013, 2014. I was very, very distressed and out of control. I was like very, very stressed. My grandparents at this point had locked the doors to the house because they were like, trying to prevent me from escaping. And then I jumped out the window of the bedroom where I was. But it wasn't like a bad fall, because I was trying to protect the awning. So I just had a wee gash to my head, and that was it. But then they admitted me to the ARI for observation for the night, and I ran away from there in my pyjamas. And then after that, they took me, when I came back, they took me straight to the Cornhill instead.
And that was a really dark time. It was a really hard time.
Very dark,
you said for
yeah.
about 6 months you were in this existence of just almost solitary existence, you know, where there was somebody sitting outside your bedroom door just watching you the whole time.
Yes, because I kept on trying to escape.
Yeah. And your mind was such a way that you said to me that you couldn't remember why your mum wasn't visiting you. You'd almost forgotten that why she had died and everything. And so having to relearn that and remember all of that and just brought it all back.
Broke my heart when I found out again what happened to my mum.
Yeah. So just the whole trauma of all that. Then 2014, your sister has been in love with her childhood sweetheart, and they get married, and you weren't able to attend the wedding because you were so unwell.
Yes, I thought in my mind, even though my brother-in-law is a lovely person and everything, I was like trying to protect my sister from what happened to my mum, and as a result I consumed de-icer, and then I wouldn't let anybody help me. I was like getting restrained and everything, and then because it took so long to get treatment, had to be on dialysis for a turn.
Wow. So just that whole thing, it's just amazing how God has just protected you through all the things. You know, it seemed like your mind was so away from it that you just couldn't couldn't cope, you know. But they're happily married now, and they have a gorgeous little girl that you absolutely adore. And everything has worked out wonderful there. So you come out of that really dark place in Peterhead, and you then are, you know, go back to Peterhead, and you sometimes have to go in and out for overdoses or eating disorders and things like that. It just seemed to be a long thing. Then in 2015, they brought you, you said this was a real turning point. You were taken to view a long-term ward in Cornhill.
Yes.
And what was that like?
Well, I went there for a tour, and I was like, goodness me, everyone here is like really, really old compared to me. And then I was invited for lunch one day, and there was people that were having to be fed, and I was definitely the youngest. And it was like, I realised to myself, if I go in here, there's not much hope of getting out again.
No. And so it was almost a wake-up call that was like, you know what, this is not my future. You know, and those wonderful words of your Nana's ringing in your ear, you know, Jenny can do whatever she sets her mind to. So Nana also then came to your rescue, because they were either going to admit you there, or they were wanting to put you to a homeless.
One of the nurses suggested that because I'd broken my self-harm contract, that I should be put into a homeless shelter.
Okay.
And it broke my heart to Nan on the phone after that, and she's like, no, Jenny, you're coming home to us. It was just lovely.
It's just that unconditional love. Just that unconditional love that she has displayed again and again and again. There was no judgment of, Jenny, what have you done? It was just like, you know what? We pick up the pieces, and we just love you just as much, and we just run with it, and just praying for you constantly, loving you, and just giving you a second chance. It's just like Jesus, really. You know, he gives us chances after chances, and we fail so many times, and yet he just is so lovely. He doesn't, you know, it just says, you know, I love it in Psalm 23, it says, you know, goodness and mercy will chase after me. You know, no matter where we go in life, you know, that mercy of God chases after us, and the goodness of God. And I want to get to the good bit of your story, and I know that, so I'll just kind of summarize it a little bit. You know, things still, although you did go home to Nana's, you know, then the other wake-up call was like Nana was admitted to hospital. Yeah. And this is your rock. This is the person that has been your mountain since your mum has passed away. And tell me about that time when she was admitted to hospital.
She was progressively getting like to the point where she was struggling to speak. Yeah. And they thought it was mini strokes. And then her eating became very difficult. It took her a lot of effort to eat and stuff.
And so this must have been so traumatic to you. Now this is reversed. Now Nana's in hospital and you're visiting her, and the stress of that. So did that change things? You know, thinking she managed to come out, they figured out what it was, and she's recovered well. And then March 2016, you know, again, things are, you know, just the thought of losing Nana and all that kind of stuff. You had a third jump from the same bridge, didn't you?
Yes. My thoughts were very confused. And this time I broke 2 bones in my back and my arm. And I had to have surgery on my back. And they kept telling me that I should get up after the surgery and walk around. And I was like, I felt there was something wrong, but they wouldn't re-x-ray my arm. They just kept on ignoring my request to get a re-x-ray. And then after I got discharged, they gave me an x-ray and discovered that they put the metalwork in the wrong place. So I had to get a back brace until I could get the surgery to sort it.
But the one good thing was they assessed you so well that they actually discovered some medicines, and they started you on some new medication.
That's right.
And you said that was really life-transforming.
It really was, yes.
And you know something, you know, it's amazing, you know, medicine is wonderful. You know, I know that scientists discover medicine, but who created the scientist? It was the Lord, wasn't it? And so this medication suddenly really calmed your mind and started seeing things clearly. You had a little flat in Aberdeen, which is what you're still living in now. You were in supported accommodation. You would go home most weekends to Nana and Granddad's. You started attending church. And in their house group, they had a little house group, is that right?
Not in their house,
Oh,
it
not in
was
their house,
somebody else's house. But yeah, I came for the Thursday night that was on, from my house to there. And I asked the leader there if he knew a good church in Aberdeen for me to go to, and he suggested King's.
Okay.
So I came one Sunday night. I think it was an encounter night, and I came by myself, and then I was like, something just shifted within me. I gave my heart back to God, and my heart's been so much transformed ever since.
That's just amazing. So I think you said it was like November 2018.
Yeah.
And you started coming, and I can remember we were planning a trip to Cherish, and you came up to me and said, yeah, me and my Nana are coming. And I thought, does she, Nana? That's, I thought, oh, okay, that's fine. And I wondered if Nana knew about this. And then she was like, oh no, my Nana definitely wants to come. And I remember she came in and we met her. And just that love that your Nana has for you is just such a beautiful thing. Just that unconditional love. Because I remember she speaking to her, and she said, well, Jenny and I are going to go to Cherish. And what did she do? Remember? Can you remember? I was reminding you about this.
She suggested we take a mini trip to Glasgow, just so that I would know what my limitations were if I had any, like sitting in the bus or anything. Yeah. We had a good time in Glasgow.
Yeah, she said that. She said you did a little mini trip, and she wanted to see how you would manage in the bus there and back and things like that. And then we boarded that bus and we went. And I had no idea of your story. None of us knew any of your story. And we just accepted you for who you were, and you're just an amazing girl, and we had a great time. Nana loved it, and we came back, and not long after that you joined a Connect group. You started coming to Sisterhood, getting involved in church and things like that. And then lockdown happened.
Yeah.
And Jenny, I remember thinking, wow, lockdown is going to be hard, but you have been amazing in lockdown. Why do you think you have done so well through lockdown?
God's changed my heart and given me an acceptance. Like, I've forgiven my dad. Like, I feel like, I think I said to you a few weeks back, my dad's sin is no different in God's eyes than anybody else's sin. The sin that I've got is no different from my dad's in his eye. So, like, what can I do except for forgive him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's softened my heart.
It does. And I think that's very, very powerful. And the other thing is, you were brought into this church as a family, and so this church then became your family. Even though we couldn't see, people took you some meals, they would meet you outside to walk with you and things. There would be Zoom calls and conversations, and you did really well during lockdown. If somebody had said a few years ago, Jenny, there's going to be a lockdown, people would be like, she's not going to manage with this.
Happy doing the bookstore sometimes, and meeting up with friends, going to a Sisterhood, serving at the Sisterhood meetings.
That's wonderful. And it's lovely having you here and serving and getting involved and just doing what you can, because everybody has a gift to give and everybody has something. And what was the verse? You said there was a special verse that used to hang in your Nana's dining room and that you used to read it as a little girl.
The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble.
And hasn't he been a strong tower for you in the day of trouble? He's been amazing. And in conclusion, I just think, your Nana, the gift she had of just that resilience, that belief in you, that unconditional love that has seen you, and she's now, how old is she going to be?
She'll be 82 next month.
82 next month.
Yeah.
And she has just been a tower of strength, and the Lord has
really
used her amazingly. And and Nana, if you're watching, we just want to say we honor you and we thank God for you, because you've been incredible, and you have an amazing story, Jenny. You have a wonderful future ahead. And those dark chapters of what went on, there's just nobody would know to see you now what has happened. And
I hope God uses this story for his glory.
He will. And I just, in concluding, I just had wanted to read Psalm 71. What you wanted to tell me? What your favorite song was that you sing every single day, and I love it.
Because He lives, I can face tomorrow.
I love that, and that's one of Bill and Gloria Gaither's song, isn't it? Because He lives, I can face tomorrow, and it is all because of Jesus. And Psalm 71, I was reading it in the Message translation. You keep me going when times are tough, my bedrock, God, since my childhood. I've hung on to you from the day of my birth, the day you took me from the cradle, and I'll never run out of praise. Jenny, thank you so much for sharing your story. You're really brave, and we just are excited for the days ahead and what God has planned for you, because in Jeremiah He says He has plans for you to give you a hope and a future and great things, and so we look forward to seeing the great things that God has for you. Thank you.